That has to be a myth. Good afternoon. I cut it short today. This is the second of a two-part series of real estate myths, common, widely held beliefs that people have. And I'm just going to get back into the article. It was on Yahoo. We'll start right here. Let me get the screen for you. Oh, goodness. Here we go. We're going to get right into it. Number 15 is actually number 1 today. The myth, you don't need a home inspection. And I think that is kind of a myth. You should advocate for a home inspection. Even if you buy a property as is, it's good to get a second set of eyes on the property. But a home inspection is not a requirement to purchase a home. And so the myth could be considered true. So just because it's true doesn't mean you should do it, I guess, is what we're learning from that one. The next one is you should list your home with a super agent. And I think that's a myth. So what is a super agent? A super agent is usually defined by having eye-popping number of transactions. And that's where things get silly. If you work for a broker, they can put every transaction you make into their record. And they can have as many agents as they want. So 20 agents giving credit to each home they've sold put on your record will make you look pretty super. In my opinion is that you should list with someone you feel comfortable working with and just leave it at that. The next myth, remove all holiday decorations before listing your home. I think that's a myth. Definitely. No question. New home buyers are pretty understanding when it comes to holiday decorations. After all, they're probably going to go back to where they live and have decorations up as well. If you're celebrating Christmas, for example, you really don't need to take down the tree or anything like that. One thing you might want to do, however, is keep the gifts in a safe place. I'm not saying someone walking through will take them, but it's better just to avoid the possibility of it happening altogether. Number 4, it says, always redecorate in neutral tones. So I agree with this, so it's not a myth. There's nothing worse than seeing interior walls with some color that is bold and individual to the seller. There's this awful seafoam blue color that I see that makes the house look awful. Also, with those bold colors, there's the possibility that when you go to change the paint colors, it will need at least 2, maybe 3 coats to change them back, adding additional expense. If you're looking to sell, color isn't bad, but stay neutral. Remember, you are no longer living in the house and you want it to look good for potential buyers. Number 5, set the list price above comparables to build in bargaining room. I think this is a myth. When you come to the market at the right price, good things happen. If you go too high, the majority of buyers aren't going to bother with offering a comparable price because they have no idea that you are looking to get a lower price than your asking price. The longer the house sits on the market, the less chance you end up getting your asking price. And so I hate when people do it because the thought is, oh, well, the agent's going to write a low ball offer and it's going to be fine. Well, define a low ball offer. I mean, if you're way over on the price as it is, if they just come at what it should be, that's going to be a low ball offer. And nobody really wants to insult the seller. There's no real desire on anybody's part to insult the seller. Best thing the buyers can do is just go look for another house. So that's normally what happens there. Number 6, setting a low price means you'll make less money. I think that this pricing strategy makes sense in some markets and little sense in others. Right now, the market is very hot for sellers. Your listing strategy should be as straightforward as possible. When you set the asking price artificially low in this market, you will get multiple offers, but you would have gotten multiple offers at the right asking price as well. So I'm not sure what the point would be. If your house is trash, it's not going to sell for a high number just because you put one on it. And you have a much better chance of selling if you do set a lower price. That could entice buyers to take a chance on remodeling the kitchen or bathrooms and making a house their own. Number 7, negotiate the realtor's commission to net more profit. I think this is a terrible idea and a stupid myth. Now, understand I'm biased. I'm a real estate agent. When you try to cut the commission of the buyer agent, it just makes people not want to show your property. Conversely, adding to the commission might bring in more buyers. I will show any house. I also have a buyer's agency commission agreement in place that says I get X for a sale. It's normally a percentage. If the buyer chooses to purchase a house below what we've agreed to, the buyer is on the hook for that difference. They know that this is going on. The buyer would rather not pay the commission, and so your home tends to get shown less. When you cut the commission, you're also signaling to the buyers that you might be troubling during the transaction as well. As if you have to short your agent, what else will you be doing? Will you be failing to disclose repairs, refusing to negotiate terms, etc.? It's not a great plan. And like I said, I'm biased, but I'm just telling you how it is. Number 8, professionally staging a home is necessary for a quick sale. This is definitely a myth. There are some homes where staging will really benefit the seller in getting a higher sale price. These homes are usually empty to start with. If your home is in great shape, updated, and priced right, you shouldn't have any problem getting multiple offers in the current market. When the market changes, the houses that are in the best shape are usually the same as when the market is good. So there's no issue there either. This isn't to say that staging isn't of benefit, but it's specific to individual situations. So there are houses where staging makes a big difference, but then I'd say for maybe 70% off the top of my head, you should be in good shape. You shouldn't have to stage it, and you'll still get a quick sale. Number 9, if your home isn't in great condition, no one will buy it. This is definitely a myth. This, I think, is the biggest irrational fear of home sellers. The idea that no one will buy your house. I've been doing this for 15 years, and every house in the MLS has sold within this time. There's always a market for investors if you can't get a retail buyer. The key is realistic pricing. If your house is dated, you aren't getting the same price as a house that isn't. If your house has a major issue, disclose it and move on. Pricing strategy is key. Number 10. What is number 10? List your home with a neighborhood expert. I think this is a myth, but let me explain. I know certain agents who focus on specific neighborhoods, and they do a fine job with sales. I also see agents who have never been in a neighborhood get more than any neighborhood expert. That shouldn't happen if the expert is truly an expert, right? There are 2 things I think that happens to the neighborhood expert. 1, they concentrate on too small of an area, and they don't realize that in other neighborhoods are causing price increases or decreases through the entire market. And number 2, they get complacent. They're already the expert in their mind, so why bother keeping up? The neighborhood expert is really a strong way for a real estate agent to market themselves, however. If you are looking for an agent and they bill themselves as the neighborhood expert, how could you quibble with that? You can see why this myth is proliferated. It's coming from the agents. Number 11, open houses are a waste of time. I agree, this is a myth. This is a myth. I know of 4 houses I sold because of an open house, and I can't even count the number of people who were considering writing an offer at an initial showing that used the open house as a second opportunity to tour the property. Now, holding open houses weekend after weekend is a waste of time. Also, in a really strong market where there was already a ton of foot traffic, it seems to make little sense to have an open house. But that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. There is much debate amongst agents on the issue of open houses. I've put forward my thoughts on the issue, and other agents are free to disagree. Number 12. What is number 12? It says you'll recoup the remodeling and home improvement costs when you sell. This is definitely a myth, and it's one that can be downright dangerous financially for home sellers. Here's what I often see. Someone is in a neighborhood where the average house sells for $300,000. They remodel the house, change out the kitchen, the bathrooms, and all new flooring. Maybe they add a room. They bought the house for $300,000 and added over $100,000 to the house, so it should bring $400,000, right? It doesn't work that way. I don't know why, but I just know that it doesn't. Pennies on the dollar on your improvements usually. But what happens if they actually bought the house for $220,000 and put that same $100,000 into it? It wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that they could get $320,000 for the house in that scenario. The point here is that it matters at what price you buy, not what money you put into it. Number 13, the highest price is always the best offer. This is definitely a myth. Your best offer is going to be the offer that has the best chance of closing. Anyone can write the highest priced offer. But what happens when the house doesn't appraise? Do the buyers have enough cash to cover the appraisal gap? What happens when one offer there is a mortgage and the other offer is $1,000 less, but it's an all cash offer? What if the highest price offer has many contingencies or hoops the seller might have to jump through before they sell the home? The best combination of highest asking price, fewest contingencies, and strength of buyer financial position is the best offer for the seller, without question. Number 14, wait until the property is under contract for a home inspection. I don't think this is a myth. I think this was a competent strategy. Here's why. When an inspector goes through your house before it is listed for sale, everything they find is something that would have to be disclosed on a listing. Why disclose things that you were previously unaware of before you list your property for sale? It makes no sense to me. And the buyer is going to want to perform their own inspections. This is going to cause a disconnect between your inspector and the buyer inspector. The buyers don't trust your inspector, so now you end up arguing every point twice, once with your inspector and again with the buyer inspector. Let's say that your inspector says that the sewer lateral is fine, just needs a good cleaning. And let's say the buyer has an inspection done and the inspector indicates that there's a crack that must be replaced. Who are you going to believe? How is this going to help you sell your home? The only concession I would make is if I was listing a house where I knew there were severe issues and I wanted to help ease the mind of the buyers by being completely transparent with them. Then I would provide a copy of the inspection report to the sellers online, or at least a physical copy at the house during showings. That would be the only situation where I would get a pre-sale inspection. Number 15. Winter is a bad time to sell. It can be, but not always. It's much more specific to the situation. As a buyer's agent, I love to show houses in the winter months because I feel like there's less competition for houses. However, there's also less good inventory coming up to markets, so anything that does come up usually sells under contract, still goes under contract relatively quickly. Fringe properties, the estate houses, the neglect houses, these types of houses may not bring as good of a price during the winter, but those sellers are usually motivated to get rid of the property by other things than just the highest price. If you do have a strong house to sell, you will be fine listing it in the winter. And the last myth, save money by marketing your house for sale by owner. Now, again, I'm extremely biased, but I do think that this is a myth. I would guess that the thousands of people try this in my market every year, and within about a week, they're listing the house with an agent. Why? Well, home buyers aren't usually working with an agent already, and the property just doesn't seem to get the exposure that it would have otherwise gotten when it isn't on the MLS. Now, Zillow has made it easier to get for sale by owners onto the home buyer landscape, no doubt, but you are still likely going to have to be working with a buyer's agent in the transaction, and they have the majority of the buyers. If you want limited exposure to your property, sell it for sale by owner. If you want your property marketed to hordes of buyers, list it with an agent. So that's it. We made it through all of those myths. There were a lot of them. I'm kind of surprised. That's pretty wild. I will put, like right now, I'll put up here the link to the first part of the myths. I thought it's kind of fun to see what people are writing. Maybe I agreed with half of them, maybe a little more than half. I don't know. What are some buyer myths or seller myths that you can think of in the real estate world? You should put those in the comment section below, and we can have some fun with this. With that, I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.